Devaya. Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Astadyadeshatarine Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juthapadakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavanscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sakana Kavita Sri Vishakam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabhandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Today we are celebrating Govardhanpuja. I will speak for some time and then Srila Prabhupada will bless us with Giriraj Maharaj to speak about Giriraj Maharaj. This incredible pastime, which is described by Srila Goswami and Srila Bhagavatam, is described in Harivansa, Vishnu Purana, and has been elaborated through spiritual visions and realizations by countless great Paramahamsa Acharyas. Krishna who has achieved a Shakti inconceivable by uses. The most powerful of all of his fortresses is the power of his affection for his devotees. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur calls this the pressed jewel of all of the infinitely good qualities of Krishna. Krishna can fulfill limitless purposes in any action. An expansion of Lord Krishna, an expansion is Karanadakshayi Vishnu or Mahavishnu. Simply by a single glance, he activates the entire cosmic manifestation. He impregnates within the Mahatattva of material nature unlimited jivas or living entities. He activates with his glance the power of time, which sets the three modes of the material nature in action. And the whole process of creation, maintenance, and destruction is all happening by the power of one little glance. In this Govardhanpuja, Krishna, he wanted to keep his promise. And this Krishna's eternal promise. He restates in Bhagavad Bombay that I will always protect my devotee. And in this particular Leela, Krishna is protecting so many devotees in very different ways. He's protecting Indra from his own false pride. Where there is false pride or ahankar, the will to serve with devotion, bhakti, is crippled. It is most powerful enemy to true devotional service. False pride. Indra is actually a devotee. Sometimes we laugh at him because he makes mistakes. But he's such a great devotee that Krishna utilizes him to make these mistakes. And he's repeatedly within the Srimad Bhagavatam. Krishna takes very, very powerful people that he wants to teach lessons to the world, in both positive and negative ways. Krishna wanted to protect Indra from his false pride because it was impeding his whole purpose in life. At the same time, he protected all the Brajvasis by giving them an experience that they all yearned for. For 7 days and 7 nights, all the inhabitants of Vrindavan were with Krishna 24 hours a day. It was a festival like no other festivals. At the same time, Krishna wanted to teach that my devotees should know that I am the cause of all causes, the source of all incarnations, They should not be distracted by the worship of deities. Now in Vrindavan we see there are places where deities are worshipped, but they're worshipped for developing love for Krishna, for the purpose of enhancing our Krishna consciousness, not a diversion away. The story begins on this day, we celebrated with so many firecrackers. The monkeys dancing on the roof is such a pleasing sound.
इसमें से वायर है, फायर वायर, इसमें से आरसी आउट दे सकते हैं, इसमें फोटो रखें।
Krishna in the village of Vrindavan, he happened to see that Nanda Maharaj and the other Gopas, they were arranging a very elaborate religious ceremony. Krishna understood exactly what was happening. But in his own childlike way, at the time, he was only 7 years old. He approached his father, Nanda Maharaj. He said, I see everywhere there are people running here and there in so many ways, preparing for some sort of yajna or sacrifice. Can you tell me, what is it? Who is it for? And why? Krishna said, Nanda Maharaj was hesitating to explain it to him because he's a small child, and these yajnas are very technical sometimes, even for adults. Krishna said, why are you hesitating? There should be no secrets among honest people with family members. And I'm your son, so you tell me openly, what are you doing? Who are you doing it for? And why? And Nanda Maharaj said, we are a community of cowherd men and women. And we depend on agricultural crops, grass to grow, and all of this is only possible due to rain. Whether it rains or not is beyond the ability of humans to control. It is supervised by the great demigod Indra. And to satisfy Indra, to provide rains, our forefathers for generations and generations and generations have done this Indra Puja every year at this time. Krishna, he spoke a philosophy that he didn't even believe in, and he didn't want any of us to believe in it. But he spoke it just to enchant our hearts for a higher purpose. And one of those higher purposes was to make Indra really angry. This 7-year-old little talkative boy, he said, Father, there's no reason to worship Indra. Because after all, everything is happening with good results and bad results according to our karma. If we perform good work, we're going to get good karma. And if we perform bad, we're going to get bad karma. And all the demigods could do is be agents to deliver the karma that we deserve. So we're pious people, we're doing good, therefore, Indra has to send us rains. Rain is coming due to the mode of passion. Creation is passion, maintenance is goodness, and destruction is ignorance. These are the three modes of material nature that prevail over the different elements of the universe. So for the creation of our crops, and our grasses, and the prosperity of filling the rivers and the lakes, all we have to do is perform our duties with proper intentions, because work is worship. Brahmins, their duty is to perform yagas, to study scriptures, to teach others. Kshatriyas, to maintain law and order, to protect all the citizens. Vaishyas, like agriculture, cow protection, trading and commerce and money lending. And the Shudras by assisting those who are protecting them. We are Vaishyas. We are in a community where we protect cows. So why should we indirectly, uselessly waste our time worshiping this Indra? After all, Indra has to give what he's destined to give us. But the reality is, whatever prosperity we have, it's because we're being blessed by the Brahmins. And because our cows are providing so much milk to us, and the bulls are tilling our fields, and fresh grasses and sweet waters are all being provided by Govardhan. So with all the same paraphernalia that you have assembled here to worship Indra, my dear Father, we should worship the cows, the Brahmins, and Govardhan. And then he gave instructions of not knowing how to do it. He said we should take all of this bhoga, all of this food, and everything else there is in Brajbhumi, and all the milk and all the ghee from the cows, and we should make mountains and mountains and mountains of bhoga. Cakes and sweet cakes and kheers and sabjis and chapatis and rice. They will cover with wonderful ghee. And we'll make an anakuta, mountains and lakes of food. And we'll offer it to Govardhan. And we'll also have the Brahmins performing their yagas, and we'll decorate and feed the cows with the freshest, most tasteful grasses. Nanda Maharaj and all the Brajvasis, their ultimate wish in life was simply to make Krishna happy. If Krishna's happy, everything is success. Whatever our occupation, whatever our ashram, whatever our status in society is, the only true success comes when the sincerity of our effort gives pleasure to Krishna. Samsivya Haridosha. It is the perfection. And if we don't please Krishna, it's all a waste of time. And Krishna says, even if you offer to me a leaf, a flower, fruit, or some water, if it is offered with bhakti, with devotion, I'm pleased to accept it. Understand the nature of Nanda Maharaj and the Brajvasis. They had no hesitation to go against a tradition of the king of the demigods, Indra, if it pleases Krishna. Gopinath, the great poet, prayed, my dear mind, just worship Sri Nandana. Because by pleasing him, you become fearless. The predominating emotion in the whole material creation is fear. Fear of loss. Fear of humiliation. Fear of not getting what you want. Fear of disease and death. Most of the money that's invested directly or slightly indirectly, if you examine its motivation, it's fear. So here we find the simple, pure-hearted residents of Vrindavan. They were fearless because their only desire in life was to please Krishna. Anxiety and fear is only because we have separate desires other than that. Maya tricks us in so many ways, thinking if I get this desire fulfilled, I will find some peace, some security, or some happiness. But actually, every time we fulfill our desires, or don't fulfill our desires, every time we strive to fulfill our selfish, material desires that are separate from Krishna, we're only implicating and complicating the anxieties and fears of this world. It's so simple. If we have no other aspiration to please Krishna, and in that state of mind, in whatever situation comes, we can become blissfully fearless when we call out His holy name. Nanda Maharaj, Yashodamaya, all the Brajvasis unanimously accepted, yes, whatever Krishna wants. That's our holy mind. Krishna knew was about to come. So they prepared these giant mountains and lakes of food. And meanwhile, the Brahmins were performing their fire sacrifices and chanting Vedic mantras. And Nanda Maharaj and his people, how they gave happiness to all the cows. For many years I took care of cows. And sometimes they kick. But it's really purifying when they kick you. But ultimately, cows, they just like to look nice, and they like to feel nice, and they like to be loved. And I brush their faces, and so after I would milk the cows and feed them, I would brush every hair on their body, exactly in the direction that it naturally went. That's a special cow brush. And when those cows would come out of the goshala, they would be smiling and dancing because they just looked so nice. And it's not just that they look nice, it's the time, the attention, and the affection that we give them to make them look nice. Srila Prabhupada taught us that cow protection in the spirit of Vrindavan, it's not just about not killing them. It's about giving them extreme happiness through feeling that they're loved and they're cared for. So they were giving the they were feeding the cows with precious grasses. And then they were putting gold-plated ornaments with jewels on their horns and silver-plated jeweled ornaments on their hooves. And they had hand-embroidered silk that they were putting around their bodies. There were 900,000 cows, just Nanda Maharajas, and there were so many others. In this way, it was a beautiful festival, and the cows were just so happy, and the Brahmins were so happy. Everyone was giving blessings. And then, under Krishna's direction, they offered these massive mountains and lakes of Boga to Govardhan, the mountain. At that time, Krishna personally manifested himself in a gigantic form on top of Govardhan Hill. It was extraordinary. How I wish we could all have the eyes to see this. When this Govardhan Hill 5,000 years ago was a gigantic mountain. And equal in size, standing on top of the mountain of Govardhan, was Krishna in the form of Govardhan. And when all the Brajvasis saw this, they were struck with wonder. And then that beautiful form of the Lord on top of Govardhan Hill, as Govardhan Hill spoke, I am Govardhan, and I have come to receive all of your offerings. Krishna and Balaram bowed down. Krishna bowed down to himself in his little form of a cowherd boy. And all the Brajvasis bowed down to Krishna, who manifested the eternal truth that he is not different than Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill is his transcendental body. And Srila Prabhupada tells us that since that time, when someone has the blessings of their guru and they're very, very well-equipped devotees, they can worship a single stone of Govardhan Hill, and it's not different than worshiping the deity of Krishna, because he is Krishna. We spoke the other day of Lord Chaitanya. When Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to Vrindavan, when he was doing his Govardhan Parikrama, the first stone of Govardhan that he saw in the mood of Srimati Radharani, he embraced that stone and wept incessant tears. Sri Radha was united personally, intimately, again with Krishna in the form of Sri Gopinath. And in Puri, for 3 years he worshipped a small little Govardhan Shiva about this big. And that Govardhan Shiva, he knew, he felt that this is the body of Krishna. Ishvara Parama Krishna Satya Ananda Vigraha. And that Shiva was constantly moistened by the tears of Lord Chaitanya's love. Yes, on that day, Lord Krishna revealed himself as Govardhan Hill. And then, he had inconceivable potencies to accept everyone's offerings. There was offerings everywhere, as far as Nandagam. He was just reaching all at once. He had long arms, short arms, and all of a sudden he just ate everything. There's nothing left. Because it was all offered with devotion. Krishna's inconceivable power to reciprocate with the love of his devotees. And so there's nothing left. And there's a village, and the Govardhanpuja is named Anior, because after Lord Giriraj ate everything what hundreds of thousands of humans can't eat, he ate in a moment. Anior, give me more. But please know, when he was saying Anior, it was a mountain that was thunderously speaking. But there was nothing left in the whole of Brajvasis. It is said that Krishna had a single tulsi leaf offered with love, and Giriraj said, I am satisfied. And then, just to reciprocate with his devotees' love, within an instant, all those massive mountains and lakes and ponds and creeks of prasad manifested again. And under Krishna's instruction, they fed the Brahmins, they fed the Kshatriyas, they fed the cowherd men and women, they fed the dogs and the cats, they fed everybody. There was such an incredible feast that no one was left out. And then, totally satisfied by this incredible experience, Krishna led them on the parikrama of Govardhanpuja, where the cows and the calves and the gopas and the gopis and the brahmins, they all were doing Giriraj parikrama. And what a blissful parikrama that was. Krishna was sometimes playing his flute. The devotees, Brahmins were chanting mantras, the gopas were dancing and laughing, there was people playing instruments, there was incredible kirtans of Krishna's holy names. Everyone was just so happy. Everyone's full consciousness was totally immersed in Krishna, remembering Krishna's beauty, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, Krishna's love, Krishna's names. This was the festival of all festivals, because when you water the root of the tree, every part of the tree is nourished. When Krishna is satisfied, all of his devotees feel the highest happiness. So many years they did this Indra Puja. And it was always boring. We've been through these long pujas together before. But this Govardhan Puja, incredible! Can you imagine the happiness of seeing Krishna manifested in its gigantic form and eating all of these mountains of prasad? And then Krishna was just so happy with it all. Everyone was dancing and singing as they did the parikrama of Govardhanpuja. And then they all went back to their homes. So happy. Everyone was happy. Except Indra. He was furious. He felt totally insulted and humiliated in front of his wife, in front of his servants, in front of all of the other demigods. It was unbearable to him. What was rightfully his in his eyes was being offered to a hill. He called for the Samvartaka clouds. These are the clouds that are especially called for universal destruction. These Samvartaka clouds have the power, when they shower rain on earth during the time of the deluge, that there's no more land. The entire earth planet becomes a deep ocean. Indra called for these clouds, and he spoke. He was so intoxicated by wrath. He said, I want you to go, and with all the powers that you destroy planets, I want you to destroy this village of Vrindavan. Because the Brajvasis, because they have so much prosperity due to cows and good agricultural crops, they have become proud. And in the vanity of their arrogance, they are intoxicated, and they have offended me. They misguided by this insignificant, talkative little child, Krishna. This is very revealing. The world is a mirror of our own consciousness. One of the main purposes of Krishna doing all this was to deflate Indra's pride. But Indra is thinking that Krishna's proud. Indra's thinking that the Brajvasis are intoxicated with false pride. If you're envious, you see envy in others. If you're crooked, you see crookedness in others. If you're proud, you see pride in others. This was Indra. He's telling the Samvartaka clouds that I am going to once and for all cure the residents of Vrindavan of their intoxicated false ego by destroying them. But what was actually happening is Krishna was in the process of destroying his intoxicating false ego. So he said, go, destroy everything. And I will be right behind you on my Airavata elephant with all of my thunderbolts, and I will bring with me the most powerful of the wind gods to create hurricanes and tornadoes and cyclones. The clouds obey their master. And here in Vrindavan, suddenly, these massive, dark clouds filled the sky. They were forming thicker and thicker and thicker. These clouds were so dense and so dark that it made everything absolutely pitch dark. Except because Krishna, from his body, Brahma Samhita tells us, the Brahma Jyotis manifested. Everybody could see perfectly. It was dark upstairs, but everybody could see because Krishna was manifesting his light, but they didn't really understand what was happening. And as the clouds were forming, we have never seen clouds like this. When you see them, you're about to die. Unless you're a Brajvasi. Thunder, lightning, then torrents of rains. Our scripture tells us It wasn't drops of rain. The rain was coming down with such force. It was like hundreds and thousands of rivers falling from the sky simultaneously. The Srimad Bhagavatam explains it was like columns, like pillars of rains falling. One of our acharyas explains another analogy. It was like a gigantic, ancient banyan tree with all of its trunks coming down. It was endless. It became freezing cold, and the winds were unbearable. There were cows who were trying to protect their little baby calves, and that loose skin that is under their neck. They were putting that over the little babies' bodies like a little umbrella, and somehow or other wrapping around their calves to protect their calves from the winds and the rains and the cold. And meanwhile, the cows were trembling and shivering, and their hairs were standing on end, and tears were falling from their eyes as they were mooing in pain. And the bulls were looking up, their eyes red with anger, as the rain was falling on their horns and falling on the humps of their backs. They were growling. And the Brajvasis, they all came running to Krishna, because after all, he was their own child, or friend, or lover. But when there was a difficult situation, they didn't see him as God, but they understood there's no other shelter than him. Krishna, Krishna, ha ha. The Brajvasis pray, oh Krishna, don't you see this intense, pitiable suffering of your beloved cows? And look at us. We're freezing. This rain, we can't see what is a level part of the ground anymore. Everything is becoming like an ocean. Krishna smiled. He understood. Indra is very angry. And then he said to his family members of Vrindavan, he said, do not be afraid. And then, according to our acharyas, by Krishna's yogamaya potency, temporarily, for just a flash of a minute or so, where Krishna ran from his home to Govardhan Hill, no rain would fall. That way, when he got to Govardhan Hill, it was completely dry. And then to please his devotees and to crush the pride of Indra, 7-year-old little Gopal, he lifted Govardhan Hill as effortlessly as a small child lifts a mushroom. We don't eat mushrooms, but we lift mushrooms. So he lifted Govardhan Hill with his left hand, and with his left hand just tickled his little finger. And then he called out to all the Brajvasis, just see, because you all gave so much happiness to Govardhan by worshiping him with so much love and devotion and giving him so much bhoga and so much nice love, that now Govardhan has become like an umbrella to protect us from the rains. Please bring whatever valuables, your cows, and let us enjoy under Govardhan Hill. And everyone brought whatever was dearest to their heart, and they all assembled under Giriraj. Incredible, because Giriraj is no different than Krishna. We have already heard the story yesterday of how in Krishna's tiny little mouth he could contain the entire universe with mountains and oceans and all living entities. So even though there were so many cows and so many Brajvasis, the Harivamsa explains that because Govardhan is not different than Krishna, the entire universe could have been safe from rains under the umbrella of Govardhan. Everyone gathered. And as Krishna lifted the Govardhan Hill, it made such a tumultuous sound. Can you imagine a mountain being uprooted from the ground? And by Krishna's own will, his Icha Shakti, the power of his own desire, there was some dirt and rocks falling from Govardhan to make a little boundary wall. And also, whatever water fell off the mountain, it dried up before it reached the ground, so no water could get under the hill. So it was just a beautiful arrangement. And all the gopas, and all the gopis, and all the cows, in all four directions, they surrounded Giridhari, the lifter of Govardhan. Everyone, the calves, the cows, the buffaloes, the goats, the peacocks, the gopis, the gopas, the brahmins, everyone was thinking, not only thinking, they were experiencing that Krishna is only looking at me. They were in a full circle around Gopal, but yet Krishna was exchanging the deepest, most intimate pastimes of love with all of them through his glance. Each of the residents of Vrindavan were reciprocating with Krishna according to their particular relationship. The Brahmins were blessing him. The Gopas, they were joking with him and laughing with him and making all kinds of funny sounds to make him happy, and Krishna was doing the same for them. And the Gopis, a little distance away, in the love of their glance, they were offering Krishna the intimacy of the love of their hearts. And through his glance, he was entering into their hearts, and deep in the very core of their hearts, they were satisfying all of their innermost desires to embrace Krishna and feel Krishna's embrace. And this was all happening through their eyes. And Yashoda and those who had parental affection for Krishna, they were feeling the ecstasy of distress. There's a particular verse in the Srila Prabhupada where Richard Slavin explains, when Krishna and Balaram were crawling around Vrindavan, their mothers, Rohini and Yashoda, were always worried. They were thinking that they may get stabbed by the horn of a cow or a bull, or they may get scratched by the teeth of a dog, or the teeth or the claws of a monkey or a cat, or they may crawl into a thorn that pierces their body, or they may get damaged by the rocks and the stones in the road, or a calf or a cow may step on them. In this way, Krishna's mothers were always immersed in the transcendental ecstasy of anxiety. This is bhakti. Srila Prabhupada, our beloved Guru Maharaj, by his example and by his inspiration, he didn't teach us to avoid anxiety. He taught us to be absorbed, whatever situation, in loving service to Krishna. And if we're actually absorbed in such a spirit to serve, then our anxiety only intensifies our ecstasy. Madhu he said, don't anybody think that Krishna's tired, because by my Brahman tejas, I am chanting mantras, and that is causing Giriraj to float in the sky. And Yashoda Maya, she was looking up at Krishna, and she was thinking, this mountain is so hard, and it's so heavy, and it's so huge, and it's on my little son's finger. It must hurt him so much, and he must be so tired. It's already been so many hours that he's holding up Govardhan Hill, and look, there's perspiration on his hair and on his face. And Krishna said, my mother, don't think like this. I'm just having fun. He said, because we please Govardhan so much, he's so happy, he's just floating. I'm just an instrument standing here, but actually Giriraj doesn't weigh anything by his own. Yashoda said, how can you say that holding such a hard, heavy thing is happiness? If Giriraj is actually floating, then tell him to remove himself from your finger and float around in the sky to show me. Mother Mangal said to Yashoda, he said, why are you speaking like this? Yashoda said, my son is so impudent, he's so naughty. Why did he have to anger Indra like this? Mother Mangal said, if Indra wasn't angry, we wouldn't be having this incredible festival of standing on the Govardhan Hill with Krishna. In this way, there was beautiful reciprocations according to each devotee's rasa, or particular temperament of love with Krishna. But it was an incredible festival, because all day and all night, for even a moment, no one was separated from Krishna. The rains were pouring down on top of Govardhan Hill. But please understand this. These rains of devastation were pouring so hard, and Indra was sending countless of the most powerful thunderbolts in the universe on Govardhan Hill. But because Giriraj was feeling the touch of the tip of the finger of Krishna's left hand, Krishna was investing so much nectar and so much love, so much ecstasy into Govardhan, that even though it's a massive mountain, that little tiny tip of a finger touch infused him with so much happiness, made him so totally indestructible that he didn't feel anything. He felt the thunderbolts to be like showers of soft lotus flower petals. He felt the rains of destruction to be a very pleasing abhishekam. In fact, instead of causing any destruction to Govardhan Hill, the more the rain fell, the more Govardhan Hill glowed with beauty and ecstasy as it was just being cleansed and nourished by the rain. Days were passing. Indra was becoming so frustrated. The strongest winds of the universe were all completely fixed on Indra's destruction with the instruction on the one mission of blowing Govardhan Hill off Krishna's finger. They couldn't do it. Meanwhile, the wild animals that were living on top of Govardhan Hill, they were so empowered by Krishna's little finger and by his mercy and blessings underneath the hill. Even though they were on top of the hill, they were completely happy. The lions, they were so empowered by Krishna underneath that they went to the peaks of Govardhan Hill and they saw these massive Samvartaka clouds, very fearful. And the lions were thinking these are big elephants, and they started roaring. And with their claws started scratching at the Samvartaka clouds, and this was too much for the clouds. They scattered in all directions to escape from the elephants who were empowered by Krishna. The peacocks were dancing blissfully. There was a storm out on the top of Govardhan Hill, and there was another type of storm underneath Govardhan Hill. The rainbow was Krishna's peacock feather when he was here. The rain cloud was Shamsundar, the beautiful monsoon-like complexion of Lord Krishna. The lightning was Krishna's lightning-like colored dhoti and armor cloth. And the love that was pouring from Krishna's glance and from Krishna's lovely smile was like a storm that was flooding the hearts of all the Brajvasis. And the Kostubamani on Krishna's chest was like the sun that was illuminating all directions. Indra was really getting frustrated. Meanwhile, as he was increasing the intensity of his attack, with his left hand, Krishna was holding Govardhan Hill, and with his right hand, he placed his flute to his mouth and started playing wonderful, sweet songs to enchant the hearts of all of his devotees. As Krishna started to play the flute, Madhumandal cried out, "Don't play your flute! We have all seen the effect that your flute has on your devotees. Govardhan is Haridasvari, and he's the best of all your devotees. If he hears your enchanting flute, he may fall unconscious and fall off your finger and crush everybody." And another Gopa was thinking out loud. He said, "We have seen that when Krishna plays his flute, liquid objects like ponds become solid and mountains melt. If the sweet song of Krishna's flute causes Giriraj to melt in ecstasy, then we will all be destroyed. And another Gopika said, no, Govardhan is very sober. He will not melt. Krishna will protect. And we love Krishna's glancing at all his devotees as he was playing his beautiful flute. And our acharyas tell us that Krishna gazed upon the beauty of Sri Radharani, and she showered upon him the sweet love through her glance. And Krishna, experiencing the love of Sri Radha, his own pleasure potency, he began to tremble. And as he trembled, the cowherd men were thinking, Govardhan Hill is about to fall. Krishna's getting tired. So they took sticks and they stuck the sticks against the hill. And they were thinking, we're holding it up. Mandir. He said, why are you all wasting your time? Do you not know that my friend Krishna is the younger brother of Balaram? He does not need your help. He is all powerful. All you're doing with your sticks is uselessly scratching the bottom of Govardhan Hill. Krishna told to Mandir, he said, why are you saying like this? They are expressing their parental loving affection toward me. Let them offer their love for me in this way. But the gopis understood why Krishna was actually Balaram understood. The power of the love of Sri Radha. Some of our acharyas explain that from the gopis' perspective, Krishna was, through Radharani's glance, she was empowering Krishna to hold up the Govardhan. There are literally unlimited various descriptions from different perspectives of divine love that was going on during this Govardhan Leela. And Yashoda Mai, she started crying out to Krishna, you've already been holding up this hill for so many days, and your face is shriveled, and your stomach is all caved in, and you're perspiring. We need something to eat. I have brought fresh, sweet, warm cakes for you to eat, my child. Please. Don't you see even the cows? They won't eat unless you eat, and they're so hungry, so please eat. Put down your flute and eat. And Krishna said, oh my mother, if it makes you, I'm not hungry, and I'm not thirsty, I'm not tired, but if it makes you happy, I will eat your cakes. And my mother said, yes, yes. And then we will all eat her cakes. And started with such a beautiful festival beneath the Govardhan Hill. In all those 7 days and 7 nights, the Samvarta, the clouds, came back to Indra with a report that with all the winds and all the rains and all the thunderbolts, we could not slightly move a single grain of dust from Govardhan Hill. Out of the hundreds of billions of leaves on the trees of Govardhan Hill, we could not separate a single leaf from a tree. We could not uproot even one tiny blade of grass. And we're totally exhausted. We can't do anything else. We're crippled. We give up Indra. We can't do it anymore. That only made Indra even more angry. And with his wind gods and with himself, he just increased until he was totally exhausted, and he saw how Krishna can totally deflate a person's pride. Thoroughly. Can you imagine? He couldn't move a grain of dust. Even when Krishna first went to lift Govardhan Hill, just to make Indra really feel himself insignificant. Before lifting Govardhan Hill, Krishna didn't even bother to tighten his belt, which he would do to practically any other demon would attack. After 7 days and 7 nights, as the Brajvasis were just gazing at this Tribanga form, threefold bending form of Krishna playing his flute while lifting Govardhan Hill. Indra realized that this little boy is the supreme personality of Godhead, and I am so ignorant, so foolish, that I'm condemning him saying that he's telling the Brajvasis to worship the hill instead of me, God. He's God. Indra. It is explained that those 7 days for Indra were like 7 millenniums of intense, agonizing pain. But for the Brajvasis under the hill, those 7 days were like 7 hours of ecstatic happiness. Krishna reveals himself according to how we approach him. Indra wanted to devastate Vrindavan, but in the end, it was Indra who was devastated. And in shame, he left that place. The clouds went away, the rain stopped, and the sun came out. Nobody wanted to leave. You see, the Gopas would be in separation from Krishna all night, waiting for the next morning. The cows and the calves the same way. And the Shodamani and Nanda Maharaj, they would be in separation from Krishna all day when he would be herding the cows, waiting for him to come back at night. So this Sambhog and Vikrama was always activating and interacting to increase the ecstasies of the loving relationships between Krishna and devotees. But for the first and only time, during this Giriraj Leela, everyone was constantly with Krishna. And everyone was feeling Krishna's love intimately, especially only for them. Krishna smiled And he said, now the rains have stopped, and everyone is safe, so you can return to your homes. With great difficulty. Oh, they embraced Krishna in their heart of hearts, and they went to their homes. And the cows and the calves left, but it was just irresistible. They all ran back under the hill to be with Krishna again. And Krishna, with his glance, he herded them out from there. And then, as effortlessly as he lifted Giriraj, he placed Govardhan down exactly where he had picked him up from. And then they all returned to their homes, and they were all exclaiming, how wonderful is Krishna! All that could be heard throughout the whole Brajvasis was the chanting of Krishna's glories and his holy names. Krishna came out from Govardhan Hill. Everyone expressed their love and gratitude according to their relationships. Krishna's seniors, they embraced him, they kissed him. For the Brahmins, they came and chanted mantras to bless him. For his friends, they embraced him and they joked with him and they danced with him. And the gopis, from a little distance away, they just enshrined him within their heart of hearts, and he did the same for them. Yashoda, she started massaging Krishna's finger and kissing it. Oh, it must have hurt so much long time. We were holding up a big mountain, and she was massaging his arms. Yashoda, Rohini, Nanda Maharaj, and Balaram. They showered Krishna with such affection. The Gopas, the elder Gopas, they went to meet Nanda Maharaj. Please tell us, how is this possible? Krishna's just a 7-year-old little boy whose body is soft like butter, and yet not only did he lift the Govardhan Hill for 7 days, but he completely conquered into the kingdom of heaven. How is this possible? We've been noticing these things about Krishna since his birth. He sucked the breast of that gigantic Rakshashi Putana. And then that demon who came as a ghost of Chowpatty with his little tiny lotus foot, he kicked and destroyed him. This is interesting. This is a speciality of Vrindavan's Leela. Krishna doesn't have to exert himself to kill demons. Chowpatty was one of the most powerful of all demons. Now, when Vamanadev wanted to conquer Bali Maharaj, he expanded to such an incredible size to take 2 massive steps. To take those 2 steps, he had to become that big to cover the universe. When the Lord wanted to liberate Hiranyakashipu, he took the form of Narasimhadev, and he fought with them for hours and hours before tearing him up with his nails. Krishna did the same thing to a demon that was just as powerful. He didn't become big. He didn't become hard. He just was a little tiny baby with a soft little lotus foot. He just touched the cart with the tip of the toe of his foot and destroyed him. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki the Gopas were saying, we have seen Chowpatty, and Bakasura, and Vatsasura, and how he subdued Kaliya, and Devakasura. And now what we saw today, how is this possible? Can you tell us now, Maharaj, who is your son? Srila Prabhupada named a chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Wonderful Krishna. Nanda Maharaj told that when Garga Muni performed the name-giving ceremony, he secretly told me these words, that this son, he comes in different ages with different colors, sometimes white, sometimes red, sometimes yellow. Now he's come in this blackish form. And he comes to annihilate all obstacles, he's the friend of the demigods. He removes all inauspiciousness. He's the protector of his devotees. And he's as good as Lord Narayan. So all the cowherd men, they were thinking, oh, that's it. Our little Krishna is empowered by Narayan. So they were satisfied. And they all went home. And meanwhile, Gopinath, he understood the condition of Indra. Indra was beside himself in guilt and grief. Because Krishna is his guru. Krishna is his worshipful Lord. And he made such an offense. He was approached by his own, the guru of the demigods, Brajvasis. And he just said, what am I going to do? And Brajvasis said, you are such an ignorant fool, Indra. What have you done? Intoxicated by your power, by your opulence of wealth, by your fame. Look what you've done. I don't know what to tell you, but you should go to Lord Rama. He's the only one who can help. Indra went to Lord Rama, seeking some guidance. And Rama said, recently I also made some mistakes. I saw all his cats and all his cowherd boys. I'm not in a position to tell you what to do, but I can tell you what you should do. Krishna loves the cows. So go to Surabi. There is a material planet in this universe called Goloka, where Surabi is the presiding mother of the cows. If she begs for Krishna to forgive you, then Krishna will forgive you. So here is the king of heaven, Indra, the leader of the devotees, the wielder of the thunderbolt, who's falling at the lotus-like hooves of a mother cow. This is humbling for Indra, but it's just what he needed. And he's begging this mother to save him, because Krishna loves Krishna and Krishna loves her. This is a very important principle. In this world, all of us have made countless offenses due to false pride, trying to be the controller, the enjoyer, the proprietor. Krishna will hear our prayers if we humble ourselves before those who Krishna loves. Surabi said, let us go to Vrindavan. And Indra was behind her. Krishna didn't want to further humiliate Indra any he already had enough of this medicine. So Krishna went to a secluded place. At the Govardhanpuja, there is a place called Surabhi. Surabhi told Indra, "You wait here." Surabhi went before Krishna. And Krishna was very, very happy to see her. And she said, "Indra has performed grievous offenses, but he's feeling deeply repentant. He's your devotee. Please let him come to you and forgive him." And then Surabhi went and told Indra, "Now you go before Krishna and you surrender to him." When a devotee on our behalf prays for Krishna to forgive us and accept us, if we are sincere, like Indra was, then Krishna will forgive and accept us. We began the yatra by quoting Srila Prabhupada. He was asked, what was our qualification to receive this most elevated spiritual knowledge and the highest opportunities for prema bhakti? Srila Prabhupada said, you had no qualifications. I made your qualifications. Srila Prabhupada, speaking about Srimati Radharani, she says, if we become the servant of the servant of the servant of Srimati Radharani, then Radharani will come before Krishna and say, please accept this devotee. He or she is better than me. And when Srimati Radharani asks Krishna that, then Krishna naturally, on the power of her love, must accept us. And the power of Srila Prabhupada's love, Sri Radharani and Krishna will naturally respect, accept us. He's given us everything in loving service. So two things are required. The intervention of a lover of Krishna and our own sincerity. Surabhi pleaded on behalf of Indra. And then Krishna opened his heart to receive Indra. Krishna sees what's in the heart. Indra placed his crowned head on Krishna's feet. Even though he had the jewels of his crown of the King of Heaven, the beautiful light of the jewels of Krishna's toenails made Indra's crown insignificant. King of Heaven falling down, and Krishna's just a little cowherd boy roaming through the forest. Indra offered beautiful prayers. You are the Supreme Lord, the cause of all causes. You descend to this world to annihilate the ignorance and the darkness and to protect your devotees. And you have so expertly, mercifully protected me. Because of my power and my fame and my prestige, because of all the wealth that I'm surrounded by and all the enjoyments that are at my disposal, I became so proud, so intoxicated. that I turned envious and violent toward you and your devotees. But you are so kind that you perform this beautiful pastime as Giri Vadadari just to crush that pride, and now I'm standing before you as your eternal loving servant. Please accept me. Indra was grateful for the punishment he received. The things compounds of solution. This is a principle. When we are grateful for the purifications or the punishments or the rectifications that Krishna gives us, however painful they may be, and we are actually candidates to receive Krishna's full mercy. Indra was humiliated. He was totally defeated, but he was grateful. Srila Prabhupada describes the first meeting with his Guru Maharaj. It's a very different situation, but it's so interesting to hear Giriraj Maharaj was talking about it. That on the first meeting with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur of Prabhupada, Prabhupada presented certain arguments to him, and Prabhupada, with such gratitude, with such joy, he would say, and I'm happy to tell you, my Guru Maharaj defeated me. To be grateful, to be defeated by Krishna, by the Vaishnavas, is a qualification, and that was Indra's qualification. He surrendered. When Krishna told Indra, yes, I had to smash your false ego. Now, go back to your abode. I'm not going to take away your post. Whatever you're doing, I'm giving you the post. I'm giving you the power to do it. I'm not going to take it away. Rectify yourself. Go back, but don't become arrogant anymore. Be sober. This is Krishna's definition of being sober. To be humble. Because ego is an intoxication. It's the worst of all intoxications. To be sober spiritually means to be humble. Vrindavan, Tarori Bhasishana. Amani Namana Dina Kirtanya Sadhana. And Surabhi approached Krishna and said, as the mother of the cows, we don't need Indras like this one. We want you, Krishna, to be our Indra. So we want to perform the Abhishekam to coronate you as our king. And Krishna accepted it. And Surabhi, with the milk from her udder and the Surabhi cows, they bathed Krishna. And Indra had Radhanatha bring water from the Akash Ganga of the heavenly worlds to offer Abhishekam to Krishna. And there was a beautiful, beautiful Abhishekam. And Krishna's eternal name from the spiritual world of Goloka descended at that time. And Krishna was then given the name here in Kolhapur, Vrindavan, Govinda. Lord Shiva came, Lord Brahma came, the wives of the Devas and the Rishis came. They performed this incredible Abhishekam, and they installed Krishna on a beautiful throne, and they offered him wonderful artis, and each of the Devas were giving Krishna special gifts. And then they all went back to their abodes in great happiness. And the little cowherd boys, they happened to come by, and they saw these heavenly chamanas and these heavenly paraphernalia for artis. And they just in a playful way, they called Balaram and put Krishna on a little throne of stones with Balaram, and they started offering all of these things to Krishna and smiling and laughing and making jokes. And when the demigods looked down and they saw the intimacy of the love that the Gopas were offering their worship of Krishna, the demigods realized that our worship was devoid of any real love at all. And then Nanda and Yashoda came with the older cowherd men and cowherd ladies, and they saw this incredible paraphernalia, and the Gopas were just playing with it all, having games, and they said, "What's happening here?" And Sri Dhamma said, "Well, this was all reindeer, so we're all playing with Krishna with it." And Madhu Mangal said, "Should I tell you what I saw? I saw a talking cow. And then I saw this big person with thousands of eyes and crowns bowing down to Krishna. And then I saw a person with 4 heads and another person with 5 heads with folded palms offering prayers to Krishna." And then the Brajvasis told Yashoda that Krishna is our beloved. And Mother Yashoda, with her loving parental affection, she offered arati to Krishna. Not as the Supreme Lord like the demigods were doing, but she was offering for Krishna's protection and for Krishna's happiness. Govardhanpuja is a pastime that Krishna performed so that for all time to come we could look forward to this day, to the most joyous, beautiful festival, to be together, to remember Krishna with love, to pray to Krishna with love, to learn all these invaluable lessons of pure devotional service, and to loudly chant the holy name. And now, the brief introduction is complete. We are so honored to hear the glories of Giriraj Maharaj from Giriraj Maharaj.
Again, it is a great pleasure and privilege and honor to be here with all of you in this auspicious place, on this auspicious occasion. When His Holiness Radhanath Swami described how Srila Prabhupada informed devotees that they could worship a piece of Govardhan Hill as Krishna, it reminded me of my initiation letter from Srila Prabhupada. I met the devotees and joined the temple in Boston, and after about 2.5 months, the temple president recommended me for initiation by mail. And after a few days, I received a letter in which Srila Prabhupada said that your name is Giriraj, Giriraj is the name for the Govardhan hill where Krishna used to tend his cows. And sometimes devotees take a stone from Govardhan hill and worship it as a representation of Krishna. So it sounded very intriguing to me. You can imagine someone born in America, never been to India, just beginning to understand the process of deity worship. So it sounded very exotic. And speaking of pride, I was very proud of my family name, which is Teton. In the United States, there's a mountain range and a national park called the Grand Tetons. And as far as I knew, my grandparents and my uncle and his family and my father and his family, we were the only ones with the name Teton. And so I had this pride, like Indra. And when I got my initiation letter, that Giriraj is a name, actually it's a name for the Govardhan mountain. It's a name for the Govardhan mountain. I thought, wow, Srila Prabhupada knows everything. He knew that I was attached to my mountain name. He gave me another mountain name, a better mountain name. So we are here by His mercy. And I will read one verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, spoken by the gopis. In fact, Srila Sanatana Swami says that it was actually spoken by Srimati Radharani, but Srimad Bhagavatam says it was spoken by the gopis. It comes from the 21st chapter of the 10th canto. The gopis glorify Krishna's fruit, the Vedic Gita. And it is a verse in glorification of Govardhan Hill. And it has many deep lessons for us. So please repeat after me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 We read from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 21, Text 18. Antaya Madhira Bhavarida Yad Rama Krishna Charana Desha Pramoda Manam Manoti Sahago Kanayos Kayoryat Hani Yasuya Vatsakanda Kandulai Translation. Of all the devotees, this Govardhan hill is the best. Oh my friends, this hill supplies Krishna and Balaram, along with their calves, cows, and cowherd friends, with all kinds of necessities. Water for drinking, very soft grass, caves, fruits, flowers, and vegetables. In this way, the hill offers respects to the Lord. Being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, Govardhan Hill appears very jubilant. Purport. This translation is quoted from Srila Prabhupada's Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya 1834. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains the opulence of Govardhan Hill as follows. Hanya refers to the fragrant, cool water from the Govardhan waterfalls, which Krishna and Balaram drink and use to wash their feet and mouths. Govardhan also offers other beverages, such as honey, mango juice, and kiwi juice. Suyavasa indicates durva grass used to make the religious offering of arghya. Govardhan also has grass that is fragrant, soft, and conducive to the strong growth of cows and increased production of milk. Thus, this grass is used for feeding the transcendental herds. Kandala refers to the caves where Krishna, Balaram, and their friends play, sit, and lie down. These caves give pleasure when the weather is too hot or too cold, or when it is raining. Govardhan also features soft roots for eating, jewels for ornamenting the body, flat places for sitting, and lamps and mirrors in the form of smooth stones, glistening water, and other natural substances. So this verse was spoken by the gopis when they were at home in the village, when Krishna and Balaram went out to pasture. But the gopis had such intense love for Krishna and such deep attachment for him that they actually envisioned Krishna's pastimes within their hearts. And they felt as if they were present with Krishna at Govardhan Hill. The first word, anta, The synonym is old, but and that old can have different moods, but the mood here is of great joy. The gopis are experiencing great joy. And ayam adri. Ayam means this, and adri means hill. Ayam, we would use this word this for something that is very close. Like this microphone is very close. That video camera is a little far away, but this microphone is very close. And the gopis were saying, Ayam Adri, this hill, as if they were there. As if they were right there with Krishna. And Abala means friends. The literal meaning is Bala. Bala means strong, Balaram. And Abala means weak. So the gopis are addressing each other as Abala, meaning they are weak in resisting the attraction of Krishna. We pray to have that kind of weakness, not the other kind of weakness, to fall prey to Maya's allurements. Haridasa Varya. This, oh friends, this hill is the best of the servants of Lord Hari. Srimad Bhagavatam describes different devotees, or Haridasas. And three are prominent. One is Maharaj Yudhisthira. It's described that when he performed the Rajasuya sacrifice, so many great saints and sages came, so many kings and great personalities, and they came to see, of course, Krishna. He was there, but they also came to see Maharaj and Yudhisthira and the Pandavas. And it's described that they took great pleasure in describing Maharaj Yudhisthira as Haridas, as a great servant of Lord Hari. And Lord Krishna would regularly visit their home. He would act as their friend, as their servant, as their advisor. He was very intimate with them. And Maharaj Yudhisthira and the Pandavas were all devotees of Krishna. Their wife was a devotee of Krishna, and they engaged all of their family members and citizens in the service of Krishna. So they were such an exalted family that people came to the Rajasuya sacrifice to see them with Krishna. Another Haridas mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam is Uddhava. Uddhava was Krishna's cousin, and in Dwarka he was Krishna's constant companion. He looked like Krishna. He was qualified like Krishna. And when Krishna wanted to send someone to Vrindavan to pacify the residents of Vrindavan in separation from him, he sent Uddhava. And Srimad Bhagavatam described that for many months Uddhava remained in Vrindavan, and he made the residents of Vrindavan enlivened with his talks of Krishna. And they forgot the pangs of separation from Krishna while he was there. And so he is also glorified as Haridas. But of all the Haridasas, Govardhan Hill is Haridasa Varya. He is the best of all the servants of Lord Hari. And why is he considered the best? That is also described with Ramakrishna Charanas Parasha Pramoda, being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram, he was Pramoda, jubilant. We heard from His Holiness Radhanath Swami how jubilant Govardhan Hill felt being touched by the tip of the little finger of Krishna's left hand. He felt jubilant, and everything was a pleasure for him. All the torrents of rain and wind, it was a pleasure for him. He felt cleansed and ecstatic. That was Govardhan Lila. But every day, Krishna and Balaram would go to Govardhan Hill and walk on him. And Govardhan Hill felt jubilant, being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. And this is the secret of a good servant, that he takes pleasure in serving his master. If we have a servant who really wishes he didn't have to do the service, it's not very pleasing. If the servant is thinking, I'm hungry, I wish I could be taking prasad right now. Or I'm tired, I wish I could be taking rest right now. So it's not going to be very encouraging to the master. But if the servant is feeling joy in serving the master, is eager to render more and more service to the master, that will please the master very much. And when the master is pleased, the servant becomes even more pleased. And when the servant becomes more pleased, the master becomes more pleased. And thus there's a beautiful transcendental competition where the servant is jubilant, and by his mood he makes the master happy. And seeing the master happy, he feels more happy. And seeing the servant more happy, the master becomes more happy, which makes the servant more happy. We see the same kind of competition between Krishna and the gopis, that seeing the beautiful form of Krishna, the gopis become happy and their beauty increases. and seeing the beauty of the gopis, Krishna becomes more happy and his beauty increases, which makes the gopis even more happy and beautiful, which makes Krishna even more happy and beautiful. And this is the mood of the best servant of Lord Hari. Srila Prabhupada also was in the same mood. He was happy to serve Krishna under any condition. Once, one disciple was discussing with Srila Prabhupada arrangement for Srila Prabhupada to do programs in different places. And he was asking Srila Prabhupada, would you like to go here? Would you like to go there? What should we arrange for you? And Srila Prabhupada said, I am just like a cow. Wherever you put me, I will give milk. So it doesn't matter where you take me, because I will do the same thing wherever you take me. And once His Holiness Bhakti Damodar Swami Maharaj said to Srila Prabhupada that I have just one department, the Bhaktivedanta Institute, and there's so many problems, there's so much difficulty just to manage one department. And you have the whole movement, the whole worldwide movement. How do you deal with all the problems and difficulties? And Srila Prabhupada replied, problems? I don't see any problems. I just see service to my Guru Maharaj. So it's the same idea that his duty is to serve, and whatever he faces, it's just a different situation for service, a different opportunity for service. And so he was always happy. He was always happy. Still, he could feel anxiety. I thought it was when His Holiness Radhanath Swami was speaking about anxiety, how when one is surrendered to Krishna, there's no anxiety. But Mother Yashoda always felt ecstatic anxiety as a mother for little Krishna. So Srila Prabhupada felt that kind of anxiety for his movement. Once in June, of course, I mean, in a way it's, I'm afraid I'm going a little far from Govardhanpuja, but I'll just try to complete this one thought, that Srila Prabhupada detected that there was a conspiracy between the site engine, the site supervisor, and the storekeeper, and the accountant, and they were stealing construction material. Actually, Srila Prabhupada was in Nairobi, and he got the report. And Brahmananda Prabhu was with Prabhupada, and he said, Srila Prabhupada, you're not eating this. Is there something wrong? And Srila Prabhupada replied, how can I eat when my property is being stolen? His property means, of course, Krishna's property. he was in Nairobi. He knew what was happening. We were in June. We had no idea. So then Srila Prabhupada came to Juhu, and he wanted to deal with this conspiracy. And he raised so many questions, you know, why is the devotee who was in charge of the construction keeping these people, and so many questions about that. And then he called in Surabi. Actually, his name was Sora, but when he took sannyas, Prabhupada gave him the name Surabi Ravi Kalyantam Swami. But for short, devotees would call him Surabi Swami. So Prabhupada called him in, and in his own wry way, Srila Prabhupada said, I came to Krishna consciousness for a life of bliss, and instead I have gotten a life of anxiety. So he was appealing to Sora to relieve him of his anxiety and deal with the construction issues. But at the same time, he was sort of instructing us that yes, we join, you know, chant and be happy, and we all want to be happy. But there's another type of happiness, transcendental anxiety, and that's also happiness, but it's also anxiety. And there was one other devotee, Siddha Swarupananda. He wanted to be very mellow. His mood was to be very mellow. So once he told Srila Prabhupada, there's one thing I really just do not like about your devotees. They're always in anxiety. And Srila Prabhupada replied, that is their love. The gopis were always in anxiety for Krishna. All right, so back to Govardhan. Pramodha, yes. Govardhan Hill was always jubilant, being touched by the lotus feet of Krishna and Balaram. In other words, he was happy that Krishna and Balaram were walking all over him. Now we don't like that. Sometimes if someone takes advantage of us, someone will say, oh, he's walking all over you. You can't let him walk all over you. But Krishna and Balaram and the cows and calves were walking all over Govardhan Hill, and he felt jubilant. So this is an instruction for us. If some devotee is walking all over us, we should feel jubilant. Because it's a way that we can serve that devotee. And by serving that devotee, we are pleasing Krishna. This is also an instruction in this verse. Manam Tanoti Sahagoganayogya, that he offered respect to Krishna and Balaram, Goganayo, along with the Goga, the cows, calves, cowherd boys, and gopis. And how did he offer respect? By providing all the things that he does. Soft grasses, fresh water, roots, fruits, vegetables, caves, sitting places, so many things. He served them. That's how we show our respect. Amani Mamanadena. We don't want any respect for ourselves, but we're ready to offer all respect to others. And Govardhan offered respect by offering service, by offering his body, his everything in service. And Srila Prabhupada, commenting on this verse in the Krishna book, says that Govardhan knew the secret of pleasing the Supreme Lord by serving his beloved devotees. So Govardhan Hill, yes, he was serving Krishna and Balaram, but not just Krishna and Balaram, the cow herd boys, the cows, the calves, everyone. He was serving them all. And that pleased Krishna very much. And we all know that Krishna is more pleased when we serve his devotees than when we try to serve him alone, directly. And Govardhan will show that. And he was jubilant. He was jubilant. Sometimes we want to serve, the big man. We want to serve the Guru. But sometimes we can please the Guru more by serving the Guru's servants. Prabhupada also gave that instruction. So we should feel happy. We shouldn't feel deprived, I wanted to serve Guru Maharaj. I'm not serving this one. We should feel happy. Serving the servant of the servant. Actually, a better position than serving the servant directly. So how did Govardhan Hill express his jubilation? That is also described. There are different symptoms of ecstasy. So one symptom of ecstasy is perspiration. So the moisture in Govardhan's rocks was his ecstatic perspiration. Another symptom of ecstasy is hair standing on end. So Govardhan's tall grasses were his hair standing on end of ecstasy. And of course another symptom of ecstasy is tears flowing from the eyes. And Govardhan's waterfalls were his ecstatic tears. So as we've been hearing from the different discourses and explanations, everything in Vrindavan is conscious and personal. And everything in Vrindavan is filled with love for Krishna and acting out of love for Krishna. And of all of the servants of Krishna, Govardhan Hill is the best. But what is the particular significance of Govardhan Hill to the gopis? Why are they praising Govardhan Hill? What is the purport? This is a very important point. We have heard about Garga Muni, the Brahmin who did the name-giving ceremony and horoscope of Krishna. So Garga Muni has a daughter named Gargi. And Gargi would visit Vrindavan and she would instruct the gopis in spiritual matters. And the gopis learned that one's desires can be fulfilled only by the mercy of great souls. So the gopis were thinking, we must take shelter of some great soul so that our desire to serve Krishna, to meet Krishna and serve Krishna will be fulfilled. So they were thinking, where can we find some great soul? And that principle is enunciated throughout Srimad Bhagavatam. Syam Mahat Sevya Vipra, the first canto onwards, second canto, third, fourth, fifth, every canto, the same thing. Mahat Seva Dwara Mahur. So the gopis were thinking, we must get the mercy of some great soul. And then they spoke this verse that of all of the servants of Lord Hari, Govardhanpuja is the greatest. So if we go to Govardhan and get Govardhan's mercy, then our desire to meet and serve Krishna can be fulfilled. And as we know, the young gopis were all under the protection of their families, their parents, or in some cases their husbands. And it was not possible for them to leave the house and meet Krishna. But the gopis were so intelligent and tactful. They thought that if we tell our parents, our guardians, that we want to go to Govardhan Hill to worship Hari, the deity, at the beginning of Govardhan Parikrama, one takes darshan and offers respect to the deity of Hari, who's Narayana. So if we tell our elders, our superiors, our guardians that we want to go to Govardhan Hill and take bath at Manasi and do worship of Hari Day, they will let us go. But the gopis were actually thinking that the mercy that they can get from Haridas is greater than the mercy that they can get from Haridev. And that is true. That is true. We should always seek the mercy of a devotee, and then the mercy of Krishna will follow the mercy of the devotee. So we have heard how Govardhan Hill is Krishna. There's no doubt that Govardhan Hill is Krishna. But the gopis were worshipping Govardhan Hill not in the mood that he's Krishna, but in the mood that he is Haridasavari, thinking that the mercy we can get from the servant of Krishna is greater than the mercy we could get from Krishna directly. And Govardhan Hill is like Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, in the mood of a devotee. And in the mood of a devotee, he's more merciful than Krishna. So Govardhan Hill is also Krishna in the mood of a devotee. And in that mood, we can get more mercy from Krishna. So we will be going to Govardhan Hill soon, and we can worship him in either mood. We can see him in either mood as Krishna or as a servant of Krishna. But the devotees, they were seeing him as a servant of Krishna. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we heard a little about his ecstasy when he came to Govardhan Hill in Vrindavan and saw the first Govardhan Shila and embraced it in the mood of Radharani being reunited with her lover. There was another incident when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was in Radhanath Puri, and he saw Chowpatty, which is like a hill. Prabhupada calls it a sand dune. It's a hill. And he thought that Chowpatty was Govardhan Hill. It reminded him of Govardhan Hill, and he rushed towards it as if he were rushing towards Govardhan Hill. And then he went into a state of internal consciousness. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had three states of consciousness: Antardasa, internal; Vayadasa, external; and Ardha Vayadasa, half external. So he went into a state of internal consciousness, and he saw Radha and Krishna entering a cave at Govardhan Hill. And they were accompanied by their gopi friends. And one of the gopis told Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to collect some flowers for the service of Radha and Krishna. So this is what was happening internally. Externally, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's devotees saw that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was going mad again, and he was rushing towards Chowpatty. And when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would enter his mood of divine mad ecstasy, he could do anything. He could throw himself in the ocean, he could jump off of a hill, he could do anything, he could hurt himself. And when he was in internal consciousness, his body would go to very extreme states of ecstatic symptoms that were very hard for the devotees of Mahaprabhu to tolerate. Because it looked as if his body was being torn into pieces by his ecstatic separation. So the devotees were running to catch up to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And meanwhile, he was rushing forward to Govardhan Hill, and then he fainted, he collapsed in an ecstatic state. And seeing these extreme ecstatic symptoms, the devotees would try to bring him to external consciousness. So they would do kirtan, they would chant Hari Bol, Hari Bol, they would do kirtan, they would sprinkle water on them. And it's very paradoxical because the devotees wanted to save Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from these extreme symptoms of ecstasy which appeared to be so painful, but internally Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was relishing the highest ecstasy in service to Krishna. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, after being in internal consciousness, he came to partial external consciousness. And then he said, I saw Radha and Krishna, their friends. They were all at Govardhan Hill, and they entered a cave. And one of the gopis asked me to pick flowers. And I was so happy. I was getting to do service. I was with Radha and Krishna, their associates. And then you all came and created a tumultuous sound. And now, where is Radha and Krishna? Where is Govardhan? Now everything is gone. And we've been separated. So these are some of the confidential, mysterious dealings of ecstatic love between the Lord and his devotees. And but this is how important Govardhan Hill is. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, although he's generally, he's often in the mood of Radharani, but in this pastime, he was in the mood of a maidservant of Radharani. He was not in the mood of Radharani. He was in the mood of a maidservant of Radharani, collecting flowers to offer to the confidential gopis to offer to Radha. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also manifested that mood. And it's to me significant that he manifested that mood in relation to Govardhan. So certainly, Govardhan Hill is most merciful. And if we approach Govardhan Hill in the mood of Srimad Bhagavatam, in the mood of the gopis, in the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the mood of our acharyas, who prayed to Govardhan Hill, prayed for residents at Govardhan Hill. There's one beautiful Govardhan Astakam by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti. And at the end of each stanza, he prays to Govardhan Hill to fulfill his desires. That is Govardhan Hill's special feature, a special blessing for devotees. He fulfills their desires. Sarva Bhishta Pradana, fulfills all the desires of the devotees. So whatever desires we have to serve Guru and Gauranga, to serve Radha and Krishna and their associates, we can just approach Govardhan Hill with those desires, and he will fulfill our desires. Of course, we should be careful of our desires. There's a story, I don't remember the details, but someone was in a situation where whatever he thought he would get. So he thought, wow, I wonder what would happen if I thought of a tiger, and the tiger immediately came and devoured him. So we don't want any material desires that will be like some ferocious tiger and just devour our determination to serve Krishna and his devotees. But our heart's deepest desires, our heart's purest desires to serve Radha and Krishna and their devotees, dasa, 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 and das, those desires can be very mercifully fulfilled by Haridasa. Shri Govardhan, Shri Giri Govardhan ki jai. Shri Giri Hari ki jai. Gaur Bhakta Vindi ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna.